Hello, and welcome to this introduction to the design principles we use in graphic and UI design. The core principles of design are alignment, balance, color, contrast, emphasis, hierarchy, repetition, and scale. Let's explore these principles and discover how designers use them to communicate effectively. First, let's look at alignment. So alignment is the cohesive and orderly arrangement of design elements to guide the eye through a composition. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. Here there are two double-page spreads from magazines. You can see the designer has aligned the columns of the text and images on both vertical and horizontal axes. They've used a grid to help move the eye through the information and make sense of it. Now on to balance. Every element on a page carries a certain visual weight, which is influenced by its form, size, color, and texture. To achieve a balanced and cohesive design, this visual weight must be carefully considered. Without balance, a design would feel lopsided, heavy on one side, and empty on the other. Balance can be achieved through a symmetrical or asymmetrical placement of elements. Let's have a look at some examples. Here we have an example of a symmetrical layout. So symmetrical balance occurs when you have two identical sides of a design with a central point of axis. If you were to cut the design in half, the elements on each side would have the same visual weight, so they're more or less mirror images of each other. Now let's go on to asymmetrical. Here's an example of an asymmetrically balanced design. The visual weight is distributed in such a way that it creates tension between the elements, but it still feels balanced. If we look at this layout, the negative space on the left-hand side balances out the bulk of the visual weight on the right-hand side, meaning, although this layout is asymmetrical, it still feels balanced. Now let's explore the principle of color. In design, color is used purposely, not just to make things look pretty, but to create visual interest, express emotion, and also to guide the viewer's attention through a composition. Let's take a look at these two examples. On the left, the designer has used yellow thoughtfully across a double-page spread. The color highlights key elements, the headline, the subhead, and even an arrow that directs the reader's eye from the left-hand page over to the right. It's a great example of how a single color can create cohesion and guide the viewer's eye through the layout. On the right, the color begins in the top left-hand corner and continues behind the body text, drawing the reader through the information. Your attention naturally follows the blue elements down and across to the bottom right-hand corner. Another smart use of color to control how we experience the layout. Now on to contrast. Contrast refers to the difference between design elements. The variation gives certain elements in design more emphasis than others. The difference could be shape, color, size, or positioning. The most important element in the design should have the most contrast. Some examples for us to discuss. In the left-hand image, you can see the red billiard ball demands our attention immediately. The contrast between the black and white background and the red ball, and also the scale of the ball, means that it carries more visual weight and our eye immediately goes there. In the middle example, you can see that the red column immediately grabs our attention, and on the right-hand side, you can see the red punctuation mark with the Will Smith signature is where our eye rests. Let's take a look now at emphasis. Emphasis might seem similar in a way to contrast, but it's not quite the same. So contrast deals with the difference between two objects, and emphasis deals with the impact of an object. If you have a look at these two groups, you'll see the red places the emphasis on one of the shapes in each group. Sorry, that's the three groups, not two groups. Let's have a look at some other examples. Here, the emphasis is created on the left-hand side by the negative space surrounding the apple icon. On the right-hand side, you can see the light bulbs are all similar, but emphasis has been created by placing one at a slight angle and adding some additional line work. This draws our eye to that particular object, creating a specific focal point in the layout. Next, on to hierarchy. Hierarchy in design is about organizing content so the viewer knows where to look first, second, and so on. It shows which information is most important and helps content easier to understand. Designers create hierarchy using different tools, such as size, color, contrast, placement, and texture. These lead us through the content in a clear and logical way. Here are two layouts to compare. On the left, our attention is immediately drawn to the illustration of the living room. That's because of the size of the illustration and also the use of color. From there, our eyes move to the headline, Living Room Design, followed by the body text, and finally, the small call to action, which is a clickable arrow. In the second layout, on the right, the same elements are used, but the hierarchy changes slightly. Again, we first notice the illustration, but this time our eyes go next to the word design instead of the full headline. That's due to the strong contrast between the black text and the pink background. The word living room, written in white on pink, doesn't stand out as much. After that, our eye moves through the body text and eventually to the small pink arrow. Both layouts are effective, but they guide the viewer in slightly different ways. Which one do you think makes better use of hierarchy? Now let's have a look at repetition. Repetition is repeating a single element through a design. These repeated elements create flow or continuity throughout a layout. A repetitive element could be lines, shapes, forms, color, or even design elements. Repetition can also change perspective when used in design. Let's have a look at some examples using repetition. Here we see the same colors and shapes, the same rules of alignment, the same typeface. They've all been used across all of these designs, giving a sense of unity and brand consistency and cohesiveness to the campaign. And now on to our last principle, which is scale. So scale refers to the size relationship between the elements in a composition. It helps create a sense of proportion, balance, and focus, guiding the viewer's eye and making the design coherent. So scale refers to the proportional relationship between design elements and not just their sizes. Typically, the most important element will be the largest. Have a look at these two examples. On the left-hand side, we have the largest item in the foreground, the largest jar. On the right-hand side, our eye is drawn to the product shot with the liquid pouring into the glass in the midground. These are both the biggest, the largest elements of these designs, and therefore draw our attention first. The secondary elements on the page are items 2 and 3. On the left-hand side, those are the two jars, which are smaller and out of focus. And on the right-hand side, we have the type and the strawberries, which are both smaller and have less contrast. Let's finish up with a quick quiz on what we've learned about design principles. Which of the following is not a core design principle? Alignment, animation, balance, color, contrast, emphasis, hierarchy, repetition, or scale? Well, hopefully you've all chosen number 2. Animation is not a core design principle. The rest of them are. Thanks for listening. Now go to the mini brief on Moodle and complete and submit the design principles task. Thanks so much. Bye.